Got our trustee, just going to turn this on here and we'll get started.
Did you just see it?
Okay,
Are we broadcasting?
yes.
And we'll begin with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to this special meeting of the Washington County Board of Elections. I would note for the record that we have 3 board members present. Mrs. Bosey and Mrs. Ritter and Dennis Sipe. Mr. Schwendeman has been approved, elected by the Washington County Republican Party to replace Mr. Wenz, who retired at the end of the year. But there's a paperwork process that, let's just say it takes a few days, weeks for that to be totally completed because with new security measures and so forth, we also go through quite a bit of investigation from sheriff to FBI by the Secretary of State. And so Mr. Schwendeman may join us as an observer, but he will not be a participant today because we'll be participating with the three board members that I just noted. We also have the director, deputy director present. We also have the Washington County prosecuting attorney, who is our lawyer. She is present as well. And I note that we also have present an individual that filed the protest, Mary Marlene Delaney, and a counsel for her is also present. Having now gone through this, I would note for the record that I do not see Ari Gold, also known as David Labus, is not present. We're going to make a record with regard to his presence or lack thereof, with regard to what at least the board knows in our efforts to try to notify him initially. Well, I'll let the record speak for itself. Do any of the other board members want to make any kind of opening statement, or should we just go to testimony?
Let's just go. That's all right.
Good. All right. I think what I would like to do first, before we hear from Mrs. Delaney, I'm going to ask our director, well, if you anticipate you're going to be a witness, or you want to be a witness, I think we should have you all stand. We'll get you sworn in, and then we won't have to do it, with each person who comes up. So if you're anticipating testifying, please stand.
All right, would you all raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Amos, if you'd be so kind, first state your name and your position with the board.
Yes, Mandy Amos, Director of the Board of Elections,
And how long have you held the position of director approximately?
since the end of 2016.
Okay. Can you tell us, from the board's perspective and your perspective, what happened that sort of brings us here today?
Well, when someone registers to vote, well, I guess I should say first that what brought us here today is a person had filed a candidacy for Central Committee, County Central Committee, and they provided, an address to where they were registered to vote, and that their mail has came back undeliverable, and there has been a protest filed against that person for their residency.
Right. And so what did the board, what has the board done with regard to, how this first came to light from the board's perspective? And we're dealing with Mr. Gold, also known as Mr. Labus, is that correct?
Correct. His candidacy for Central Committee has both names, which is required by law because he's used both within the last 5 years. Do you want to mean about like the undeliverable mail?
Yep.
Anytime someone changes their address, which Mr. Gold Labus did in December,
Online.
through the online voter registration, he changed it December 18th. And anytime anyone changes their address, no matter who they are, we send them, are required by law actually, to send them what's called an acknowledgement form. We use postcards for that. It's a small tan postcard that we mail everybody. And that has their name and address on it, and it has their polling location, so they'll know that they are registered to vote and where their polling location is. Those are required to be sent not forwardable mail. So that came back to us, his acknowledgement to the 215 Poplar Lane that he registered to vote in Marietta, Ohio. It came back on December 27th of 23 as undeliverable. The sticker from the post office says return to sender, not deliverable as addressed, unable to forward, which they're not allowed to forward that. So then we're required to send what's called a confirmation notice. And this is to all registered voters, so that they can clarify if there is something wrong. If we have typed in their address incorrectly, or spelled their name incorrectly. So it's a form they can use to update, to correct that information. Those are required to be sent by forwardable mail. So that was sent to him. And
On what date do you recall?
I don't know if I have that date here. When it was sent, I don't think I have it.
Mr. Syke, the copy that we have shows that it was mailed January 3rd.
Okay,
That's this one?
yeah, actually it does say up there, and it was postmarked January 3rd.
Okay.
So it was returned to us as undeliverable on January 12th of 24. And it said return to sender, attempted, not known, unable to forward. And it was to 215 Poplar Lane, Marietta, Ohio.
All right. And so the record could be accurate. On January 5, I noticed that we have the protest. Is that correct?
Yes, that's when the protest was filed.
Okay. And again, the nature of the protest is
That Mr. Gold / David Labus does not reside at the 215 Poplar Lane in Marietta, so he's not able to be qualified to run for the Democratic Central Committee for that precinct, which is Marietta 1B.
Did the board take any action to send notice to any other address to Mr. Gold, Mr. Labus?
No, we have only mailed anything to the 215 Poplar Lane that he stated was his address.
As I think you know, this is not our first hearing involving Mr. Labus, Mr. Gold. In the past, did we attempt to send him notice at multiple addresses?
Yes, for a previous hearing, we had mailed one. He was previously registered at that time at a different address. And, but we mailed to 2 separate addresses for him at that hearing.
And did he make any statements regarding, either he or his lawyer make any statements regarding the fact that they did not want us to be sending multiple address?
Right, they did wonder why we would mail to another address than the one he stated he lived at.
All right. So as director, did you take that into consideration when you were trying to send out notice?
Yes, I would say, I did, because this is the one, the 215 Poplar is where he states he lives. So there's no reason to mail to any other address.
Okay. Did Does the board have any questions as a result of the witness's testimony?
Just a couple. Are you aware if Mr. Gold is married?
And from the last hearing, yes, I know that he is married.
What is his wife's name?
Annie Lopez,
Do you know where she is registered to vote?
on Front Street. I believe it's 286 Front Street.
As far as you know, that is still her current registered voting address. She has not changed it.
She has not changed it, so to the best of my knowledge, that is her address.
I don't think I have any other questions.
Okay. I think also the deputy director had also had information with regard to what the staff did with regard to this. So if you'd be so kind as to state your name and your position.
I'm Karen Pulaski. I'm the Deputy Director of the Washington County Board of Elections.
Okay. And how long have you held that position?
I began this position January 2nd, 2020.
Okay. So what can you tell us, again, from the board's perspective of what you understand took place with regard to trying to get notice to Mr. Labus, Mr. Gold?
We asked our mail carrier, who is a city mail carrier, just what the procedure would be in trying to have mail delivered when it comes back undeliverable. And our mail carrier, John Harding, had said that he understood that the carrier for that 215 Poplar Lane was a rural carrier, and that person had tried several times to deliver pieces of mail to Ari Gold or David Labez, and they would be returned undeliverable. And in fact, he stated that I believe the carrier had actually spoken with the current tenant there, and he refused the mail that was sent to Ari Gold.
Okay.
When did you have this conversation?
This conversation was probably held the first part of January when we came back after holiday break.
Okay. That would have been in 2024.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for the deputy director regarding that? And if you do, obviously, we can add those to the record.
Did
All right.
well, I do have one question.
Yes.
When you spoke with the post office, did they indicate what kind of mail it was?
I believe it was a cable bill that was addressed to Mr. Gold.
Thank you.
All right. The protester, represented by counsel, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And would you be so kind, first counsel, to identify for the record your name?
My name is Rhonda Mears, and I'm here to represent the author of the protest that was filed, Marlene Delaney.
Okay. Do you want to make any kind of an opening statement, or do you want to call witnesses?
I intend to call Marlene and Mr. Jim Rainey as
All right.
witnesses.
Well, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. Would you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Yes, my first name is Mary, but I go by Marlene, M-A-R-L-E-N-E, last name Delaney, D-E-L-A-N-E-Y.
Okay,
And my address?
yeah, what is your address?
203 Ingleside, I-N-G-L-E-S-I-D-E Avenue, and that is in Marietta, and it is in precinct 1B. I think that's the word, precinct.
Are you a registered Democrat?
I am a registered Democrat, yes.
Do you believe that Mr. Gold or Labus resides at 215 Poplar Lane in Marietta?
No, I do not.
Have you learned that this has been confirmed by Jim Rainey?
I was told, yes, that Mr. Rainey, yes, confirmed that.
Is Mr. Rainey present here today?
He is, yes.
Okay, so if the record would reflect that she has confirmed Mr. Rainey. Have you also learned that US mail has been returned to the Board of Elections?
I was given that information, yes.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say about your protest before I call Mr. Ray?
No, I think that we have enough information to prove that he does not reside at that address and is therefore ineligible to be on the ballot or to run for his position on Central Committee.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Ray?
Do you have any questions?
I don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to call Jim Rainey to provide testimony. Could you please state your full name and spell it and your address, please?
James Larry with 2 R's, Rainey, R-A-N-E-Y, 604 East Montgomery Street in Marietta.
Did you have an occasion to visit the residence at 215 Poplar Lane in Marietta?
Yes,
And when did you go there?
January 5th, 2024.
Did you talk to anybody at that location?
Yes, I talked to a man.
And did he indicate what his name was?
Well, I asked him what his name was, and I believe he said Woodring,
Okay.
Mr. Woodring.
Did you ask him if Mr. Gold, Mr. Lavis lived at that location?
I did.
And what did he say?
He said that Ari was in Israel, in the Israeli army right now.
Did he indicate that Mr. Gold Lavis had ever lived at that location?
No, he did not.
I don't have any further questions.
Do you want me to tell you a little?
Well, yeah, would you tell us what conversation you had with this gentleman?
Yes, I documented all of that in a memorandum for the record, which if you'd like, you can introduce in the evidence.
Have you provided it to the board?
I have not,
Okay.
but I can. I would just like to read it if that's acceptable.
Go ahead.
On January 5th, 2024, Harley Nolan called me and said that some Democrats are questioning whether Ari Gold lives at 215 Poplar Street, Marietta, Ohio. At about 11:15 a.m., I stopped at that house. There was a new/newer pickup truck with Ohio license plate, parenthesis, I believe, although I did not inspect it, parenthesis, parked next to the house with its bed open. The door to the house was ajar. When I got to the porch and before I could knock, parenthesis, there was no apparent doorbell, parenthesis, a man came to the door asking if he could help me. I introduced myself as Jim Rainey with the Washington County Democratic Party, end of quote. I said that I had been asked to stop by the house to inquire whether there are any voters living there. The man said no, and that he had just moved in from Oklahoma. I asked whether Ari Gold lived there. He said that Ari was in Israel, in the Israeli army right now. I asked his name and he said Woodring or something like that. When asked for his first name, Mr. Woodring declined to provide it, saying it was not important. Note, the Washington County Board of Elections website shows 3 voters with that address: Ari Gold, Nicholas Christian Tillis, and Alexandria Jane Solov. Signed, James L. Rainey, January 5th.
I don't
That's my
have any further
testimony.
questions.
I guess I'll ask first, do you know Mr. Gold, Mr. Lavis?
I was in a Democratic Executive Committee one evening when he was there. He wanted to speak to the committee. And as Sergeant at Arms, it became part of my duties to escort him from the room because he was not abiding by the chair's restrictions and requests. So I met him briefly. I'm not sure I could recognize him in a lineup.
Well, let me ask this, the gentleman you spoke to, could that have been Mr. Gold, Mr. Lavis? You're shaking your head no.
I don't think so. Because I think Mr. Labez would have been, had a different attitude toward me if I had introduced myself as from the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Just an opinion.
Any questions from board members with regard to Mr. Rainier?
Not for me.
Well, I'd just like to say for the record that I believe that their testimony and the evidence that the board has received a returned mail addressed to Mr. Gold-Lamas, that's clear and convincing evidence that he does not reside at 215 Butler Lane in Marietta, Ohio, and is therefore ineligible to be on the ballot as a member of the Democratic Central Committee for Marietta Precinct 1B.
Could I add one thing?
Sure.
The Board of Elections website shows currently that Nicholas Allen Woodring lives at that address, as well as Alexandria Jane Solov and Nicholas Christian Tillis and Ari Gold. So apparently that was Mr. Woodring that I spoke with.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Anything else from the staff that this makes you recall anything else?
No, I would wonder if you would want us to see when the other people registered to vote at that address, if you would like us to look that up. The other people he mentioned, if that would be relevant, if you find that relevant.
Well, Mr. Woodring,
Maybe
it might be,
Mr.
interested. Mr. Woodring would be
So I
interested.
can go have them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think of WOODRING?
It's Wood
We
Rain.
can search by address.
Okay,
Yes,
no, that's true.
I know that he was not registered there on January 5th because I checked before I went over to the house.
When you say he
Woodring.
would bring, okay.
He was not listed as a registered voter at that address when I went to the house, but he is now. And that would correspond with him telling me that he just moved in from Oklahoma.
Oh, he told you he had just moved there?
Did he tell you who he was renting from, who his landlord was?
No, he didn't. I did check the auditor's website, and that particular home is owned by an LLC, which I believe is Aaron Gold's LLC.
I believe Mandy has information from the auditor's website, if the board is interested in, for the record,
On ownership?
on ownership and when it was purchased.
Okay.
Let me see here.
Would I be able to get a copy of your letter, just to make sure I get spellings and make sure I got it,
My letter or
that you just read?
memorandum for the record.
Correct.
I should copy that from the auditor's website.
Excuse me.
And as well as print out from the Board of Elections website.
We can make a copy of that. I think I'm gonna wanna mark that as Exhibit A,
Okay.
if you want to. And then the staff will make copies of it.
Okay.
So we will also want to put these into the record, Neil, won't we?
Sure.
Yeah. We can make them B, C, and
Now, he handed me 2 pages. Do you want both or just his?
well, he read the one, what was,
What's the other?
voter registration.
It's a printout from the Board
yeah,
of
we can make
Elections
that,
website.
make one A and the next one B.
Okay, and then what will these be?
We'll
C and
make
D?
those C
This is the first one you're
and
talking about.
D.
Okay.
And this will be,
And
I
then
looked in there.
Yeah.
Also for the record board, oh, I'm sorry.
Unless you,
Hang loose, just let the court reporter do her thing first.
Okay.
Say,
do you need these up with you, Mr. Syed, while you're, do you want these up with you right now?
Yeah, and I'll read them into the record when we get the rest of the stuff. And then I'll have copies made and we'll let you keep the original.
Okay. Oops, I'm sorry.
So we did leave this, but you have anything else?
Okay, here is.
Wait, okay. That's fine.
Are you getting any results?
Yes, we are getting that. I wanted to note also for the board that we did the tracking on the certified letter that we sent out to Mr. Gold Lavez. That was mailed out on January 17th. A delivery attempt was noted on January 18th at 1:36. And it says that the notice left was no authorized recipient available.
Okay. We're gonna mark that as Exhibit F. Now we have, I believe, Mrs. Amos has Exhibit E. And,
Yes, this was for Mr. Nicholas Woodring. He went to the BMV on January 9th, 2024 to register to vote at 215 Poplar Lane. And we received it at the Board of Elections on January 16th, 2024. And so his address was updated at that time to that address.
Was he a voter prior to that?
No, he was a new registration. Or at least for Washington County, he was not a voter prior to that. And if you'd like to see,
I believe we're waiting for one more voter registration.
yeah,
can you tell us what Exhibit G is?
Exhibit G is public information that's available on the Washington County Auditor's website. You can look up an address and see when the address was last purchased or sold. And you can search by address or by name to get that information. The address at 215 Poplar Lane, Marietta, Ohio, says that the owner is Gold Enterprises LLC. It does say the last sale for that property was November 29th, 2023. The buyer was Gold Enterprises LLC, and the seller was M as in Mary, N as in Nancy, B as in boy, Rentals Unlimited.
All right. You also had, one of the staff brought in Exhibit H.
Yes, and that is the, it's a print screen from our voter registration system for Mr. Nicholas Woodring, showing when we entered his voter registration, which he did it on January 9th, 2024 at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. And this would have been done in person because it was a paper form from them. We received it on January 16th, 2024. And we mailed him an acknowledgement on January 17th, 2024.
Okay, and I'm gonna hand you Exhibit I.
And this is our print screen from our voter registration system for Ann Lopez with her address at 286 Front Street, Marietta.
Okay. And then previously, we had discussed certain exhibits. I think we've now got those marked as A through D, I believe, have been the ones that we have not identified officially on the record with an exhibit sticker. So A was, I believe, Mr. Rainey, you had a document called Details.
That's a printout from the Board of Elections
Right.
website that I have.
That you had noted in your testimony. B, as in boy, is your memorandum for the board, am I correct?
A minute for the record, correct.
Then Mrs. Amos, C is what you had identified, am I correct?
Yes, that's the acknowledgement notice.
That's the acknowledgement notice, and then D as in David.
It's the confirmation notice that was mailed.
Okay. And then we've already identified E,
Use two pages.
E, which has, it comprises 2 pages, correct?
Yes,
And then we identified F, that was the tracking,
right, from the United States Post Office.
and then G,
Is the printout from the Washington County auditors.
right, and then again H,
It's a printout from our voter registration.
and that was for Mr. Woodring. And Mr. Gold seems to have a very distinct signature, does he not?
Yes.
That's not Mr. Gold's signature in any fashion.
No, it does not match the print screen that we have from him.
And then
The
I
signature on
was,
file. Is the print screen for Miss Ann Lovis.
Just so we're clear, when was this voter registration entered for Ann Lovis?
This shows it was in, well, that says in July. Let me, I double check the date, because this just has when a temporary polling location change was set in July of 2030. Would you like to know when her address was updated to 286?
Yes, whatever the last time she
The last
registered to
time her
vote.
registration was updated. Let me go check that. Let me make sure I don't have. No, I don't have that.
and then, can you make copies, because we want to give the originals back to the court reporter.
Okay. One for each of you?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. And
Would you
one
like a
for-
copy, Rob,
and-
Rhonda?
Not sure if it knows.
What's your name again?
Marlene, Marlene Delaney, DLANEY.
Thank you.
Rhonda, RHON. Mears, M as in Mary, EARS as in Sam.
Yes, we're, do you have a card with you or anything, or?
Oh, look, I'm on it.
Okay. And he left the room, didn't he? I think he told me he was only gonna be able to stay for about half of it. What was his name, Jackson Patterson?
Yeah, he's just an observer, not reading.
I think so.
I don't know if we need to mark this an exhibit. That was for Ms. Valdez. Her address was updated in January 7th.
Oh, wait a minute, we're back on the record, okay.
Oh, I didn't know if,
Yeah, we're gonna go back on the record. You obtained a document from our records.
yes,
All right, what does it pertain to and what does,
it was for Mr. Ann, or Mrs. Ann Valdez, for when her address was updated to 286 Front Street, and that was January 7th of 2023. And that was done online, through the online voter registration system.
And it has not changed from that address
No, it is
through
still,
today.
right, it is still at that address. Yeah.
you wanna mark that? So we've now marked that as Exhibit J. We'll want to give that to, Karen is making copies for, and we want the original to go. So if you want to ask her to make the copies of that as well. Yeah. Business. These are individual packets with J at the end.
We've got one more, did you see it?
I think we're back on the record. I would note that each of the board members received the exhibits A through J, and the originals were returned to the court reporter. Does anyone have any further information they wanted to share regarding this matter? Or did the board have any questions of any of those witnesses that have testified?
I think, I want to ask Ms. Amos one other question, and that is, prior to being at 215 Poplar, where was Mr. Gold's voting residence?
His address was the 286 Front Street.
And is that the same address that his wife is still registered at?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Anything further? All right. Are we prepared to deliberate, which we must do in open session? Is there any reason to go into executive session? I think we have all our documents.
I think we're
All right. Anyone volunteer to go first?
I'll be happy to go first. Based on the evidence presented, mail has been sent and returned. Mr. Rainey actually went there and spoke with the person who currently resides there, who said he doesn't live there. His wife still is registered at Front Street, which is where he was. And in addition to the fact that it appears from all the evidence in front of us that he does not live there, in determining voting residency, one of the critical places are the place where the family of a married man or woman resides shall be considered to be their place of residence except when they have separated and live apart. There's no evidence that they've done so. It also further says the place where they reside for a length of time required to entitle a person to vote shall be considered their place of residence. In light of all of this, I vote that Mr. Gold, Mr. Lovett not be permitted to be on the ballot.
I don't have anything further to add, and I also vote that Mr. Gold is not an eligible candidate for Democrat Central Committee for that precinct.
Well, I would note that based on the evidence, it's clear to me that the staff went to great lengths to try to get notice to Mr. Gold, Mr. Labus, so that he would understand that we were unable to serve him with just our routine mail that we do for all citizens that are registered at a location. And that the staff went certainly above and beyond. And then when the protest was filed, obviously further work was done and so forth in order for us to be prepared for this date. And I find that it is clear that Mr. Gold, Mr. Labus does not reside at Poplar. And I'm not sure at this point where he does reside, but it's not there. And so I believe the protest should be sustained. And so therefore, I find that he is not an eligible candidate for the Central Committee of the Washington County Democratic Party. So our vote is 3 to sustain the protest. And obviously, as I made a record before, Mr. Schwendeman could not vote simply because we don't have all the paperwork through. And so with that, the protest having succeeded, we can now move on to our next course of business. And we want to thank the court reporter. At this point, I don't know that we would be ordering up a transcript, but that may happen.
It could happen.
So if you wish to pack up and so forth, you're not going to bother us
Okay, great.
in the slightest. If you want to stay, folks, if you have other business. The one thing I'm going to mention, I went immediately to it because we had so many folks here that were part of that. If you did want to make public comment, this would be the time we would traditionally ask if the public had any comment.
Is this back on the record?
No, just our record.
Okay.
I did witness the court previously, which was very long, as you well know. Is there a particular reason that he would change addresses to change the area, the wards that he lived in? Good question. Okay.
We have,
No idea.
there's no indication, no idea why.
But
I mean, we could suppose, we could, think of different things, but there's nothing that we've been presented that would indicate that.
okay, thank you.
Very good. All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you,
Rhonda.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Nice meeting
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Nice meeting you.
Have a good day.
I'm gonna make copies of it.
Thank
you very much.
Obviously, we'll keep you apprised.
Yeah. Watched that show the other day. I forgot. Right. She's moved to California now.
Oh, wow. I'm still on. She called me.
And she has, she can help you
She'll smile every
Thanks,
once in a
Nicole.
while.
She has her granddaughters as her sister-in-law.
Nobody likes
Oh,
it.
yeah.
No, I don't think anybody likes to try.
No, she's a sister.
Yeah.
She'll look up things on the computer.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes. She's a large. Thank you.
Thanks, Arlene, thank you very much.
Since she
Just
moved
know,
from New
yeah.
York to California, it's changed.
Okay.
We don't have a regular, cable.
I don't think you're.
Roku. So we
Well, we
can.
probably don't need it.
You can
Read it, but we could approve it and sign it.
You pick it up.
I'm gonna go and print the minutes.
Can you
if I
stream
send-
things,
Yeah.
Netflix?
I don't know if you.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Email.
Yeah.
We're
Some
gonna
of the
print
stuff
it out so
costs.
we can.
some of it's
A
free.
lot of it's taken care of.
I think that's what
Yeah.
Karen is doing. I think that's what
You are
Karen is
enough.
doing.
And she is
Oh, well, that could be, I said,
Yeah, that is what she's doing.
And do you have it in your calendar?
We got the
There's
internet. We
something
have
you gotta have to
the
stay
internet.
next
We
week.
did that.
Yeah.
Wednesday next week
And
We can
for,
drop all of our
Approve the
TV
ballot.
stations
We
and
can.
everything.
We're saving $100
It's
a month.
February 2, we
I
have
think
to
we got up
start.
to $165 a month.
Yeah, but I ain't paying that.
Yeah.
And our
so you're
internet
looking
is
at,
at 60.
well, next week
Can you
is
still
the,
pick up like
31st.
WTOP, your local?
Well, it's not quote live, unquote.
Wednesday, the
Oh,
thirty-first,
It's
is that what you're saying?
pre-recorded. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking in terms of, we don't have to like start at 8:30
like the
or
6 o'clock
something.
news, like we get up
Arguably,
at
we
10,
could do it
it's 6 o'clock.
at
Tell me when.
noon. I mean, I'm just trying to aim
And we
up
get to
your
club off
schedules or.
for lunch
Yeah.
anyway, too. Yeah.
Well, I've
And
got an
it's-
appointment at 7:45.
Sometimes they do have a live, if you hit it on the hours,
If you're
because it's not
late,
like
let's
if it
do
comes off
9.
at 10:30.
Nine,
Just
You know,
in case.
it could be 10:45.
Would 9 o'clock on Wednesday be a
It's
good
not
time
a
to train
trade-off.
your experience?
Yeah.
with
You just have to
our-
get used to it, it takes a while to get
Right,
used
well,
to it.
then we'll
But you
make
pay for
our
this
next
Roku
meeting.
box,
You buy it.
the-
you buy it.
Yeah,
There's
next
nothing about, what was
Wednesday,
it, 40?
$60-$70.
Yeah.
And then it's just like if I just want a 31st, I may pay $10 a month.
Right,
Right,
we got Paramount Plus, and I think the whole year was $111.
okay.
so he just bought a whole year's worth for $111.
Just FYI,
Oh my God, they got,
Adam is at the scene
We've
of
been
an
watching
accident.
Third Watch,
Yeah.
which is like was
Just
a
happened.
weekly
They're
series.
waiting on the
Well,
fence
we
to
can
go
sit
up,
there,
so
we're watching the whole,
Yeah.
and that's good.
Watch the-
I like to watch it.
OSHA.
And that's on Netflix?
There's an accident.
Paramount.
it's great, no, it's Roku.
So,
Is it?
Yeah, Roku has their own channel.
Yeah,
The
Oh,
last
wouldn't
time
be
we
bad.
They have a
said what
freebie
I
channel,
remember,
and they have
it
movies.
was
A lot of them free.
well, it was a
Only thing I don't
release
like is
of
I
water
can't get Bette Millie's.
that were very
They don't
detrimental
carry
to
it.
fish.
I don't know why, I guess it's a.
But you had a conflict.
Oh,
You're not always-
So I got a call, I think,
In
from,
beaches or.
first by Abe
For
and
the
then,
boys.
I don't know, Jerry,
Yes,
Jerry.
There
I
we
didn't
go.
understand what you,
Yeah.
He runs.
well,
They
yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And
What does she have her?
I got a
own channel?
call,
No,
Well, no,
They
I,
just don't.
hey, you're the
yeah, they gotta pay
EPA
her.
with
Yeah.
the junkyard.
well, I couldn't find it.
Okay.
You go represent
You know,
these
you made
guys
a comment.
and so forth, because the EPA is showing up and they're nervous and they're two different,
Yes.
working on
It's taking us a while to
both
get it.
companies,
Yeah, sure.
so we're out.
you go to that
But he did
Roku,
watch on
and there's
YouTube,
like
he said.
50 different
So, at least
blocks
you
you
watched.
never can check out what's on.
How we look.
Yeah.
Don't tell us.
It tells you if you have to pay. It's either free or you have to sign up and pay for it, so.
I like
I
it.
would say we haven't gone into recess. I mean, should we go into?
10 or
We watched
12
Yellowstone
different.
Just chitty chatting.
Oh,
like
yes,
3
yes.
times all the way through.
Yeah.
No, we loved Westwood,
Yeah.
which was on years ago, I don't know if you
Okay,
remember that.
I've been,
But that, we would have to
You
pay.
that way.
Yeah, but I love that.
I wonder if you can hook it up and still keep
Um,
your,
those are
to
two-
get it a
You can.
trial run before you drop.
You can.
And then, oh, yeah, we had them, Steve, yeah, we've had that.
Yeah.
We are. Next Wednesday,
Yeah,
at 9
and
o'clock.
you pay all
Yeah, we're gonna do that,
Next
9 a.m.
How much is that?
63.
And that runs your.
Come to sign.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we just dropped to our cell phone, probably.
Yeah.
We got Mint Mobile with ours.
That's, I put it for the office.
And it's
For everybody.
$30 a month.
$30 a month for unlimited
That's the paper you
text
have to sign.
everything.
Oh, yeah.
Saying that you have that.
Now,
It's called Mint
you
Mobile.
buy your own phones.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, gosh.
I apologize.
That's all right.
You're not going to the executive session or nothing, are you?
Not right
Okay.
now.
We're hoping not. We're looking at minutes right now from our past meeting to approve. It looks like we have some correspondence.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of wondering about
You have a business card.
the last paragraph, it said Mrs. Wentz.
Sorry.
Or the next to last
I
paragraph.
believe it's a matter of finding it in this.
Mrs. Winston, was that what?
The next, on the December 22nd one.
Right here,
I
you
am,
got Mrs. Wentz.
All right.
I was like, wait a second.
I'm down. Not having any luck.
Like I said. We really have to look into Athens.
Oh, what did they do?
Catherine, C-A-T-H-E-R-I-N-E.
she was saying, you know, they have like this things.
Yeah.
We might, might do that then.
Yeah, why don't you get a copy?
Do you want my phone
You
number?
know, I mean, you don't have to do it now.
It's okay, but I'll show
I'm
you.
just saying, it
Yeah.
might,
That'd
it
be
might
awesome.
make,
Okay.
Note taking.
what you report, and if you have a form.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over the years, I've made up forms for municipal court and so forth, you know, so if you sat there, you could just mark that stuff off,
Yeah.
you know.
Just for future, nobody doesn't need to be back on this.
W doesn't? Okay.
And it is driveway 3 on Warren.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we double checked then.
And the school is aware that we're.
I sent everything. I sent Brett's report to Kyle yesterday and I haven't heard anything yet.
But you told them that we want 3.
Yeah.
And he'd already offered that, right?
Yes,
So
he
it's
did.
not like we're,
Yeah,
something.
and- yeah, I
out of
did,
nowhere.
I did Google map search, and so we're just counting those roads.
No, it's 3, I mean.
And I think what he
Yeah,
also
we don't
said was he
have
was
that.
gonna mark off, they were gonna close off so that you could only drive so far on 2 in. And then it would be blocked with cones, and vice versa. 3, you could only go down so far if you were parking.
Now that driveway though, I mean, I know it goes into that building, but does that?
You
road
can't-
go
you
all
can't
the
You
way
can make
down
a
to
right
the
hand turn, go all the way down.
You can go all the way, so you have to put a
Where
block.
my brother had
You have to
this.
put a barricade or
I
something.
wonder if that's the only place you can get it. Of course,
I told Dennis I'd
my
like,
fault.
he and I might go out, or if he just wants to go
I
out and
tried to get him to give me my own.
do a
book.
sketch of how you guys would want that set up, so when we meet with the
Yeah.
delivery guys.
My thought process is to take the provisional and anyone who wanted to sit, or a paper ballot, and keep it in the hallway beyond the door that goes into that baseball area. And then what we'd have in the baseball area will simply be folks that are, you know, in a U-shaped affair, 2 people at a table.
Okay, I will get these corrected.
We might have another one.
No, that's the Mrs.
The
Willis.
Mrs.
Mrs.
I think we should keep this. That one, yes.
Well, then do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move to approve the minutes of the December 22nd and January 17th, December 22nd, 2023, and January 17th, 2024 minutes. A couple of corrections.
And I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, passes. Just for the record, again, we have scheduled our next meeting for the 31st of January at 9 a.m. It'll be some very abbreviated meeting. Our regular next meeting, I believe we've already set on our calendars for February 14th. And
Thanks.
Yeah, February 14th at 8:30 for the regular. And the January 31st meeting is to approve.
Is that, and
ballots.
will the February 14th meeting be a long one or a short one?
It should be pretty short.
Okay.
yeah, but it'll be
So I have
kind of
something
our
at 10.
general, yeah, by then we'll be into voting, right?
Yeah, we'll start voting,
Well, what I meant was,
yeah, February, well, be doing UOCAVA voting.
right,
Which is oversees the military voters. But we'll start regular voting, for everybody on the 21st
Right.
of February.
so we'll still have this available.
Yes, we'll still have this room available.
Yeah, gee, Wednesday, the 14th, busy day, Ash Wednesday, Valentine's Day, and Board of Elections.
Okay, so, and I told Adam about those 2 dates and times.
That'll be done.
And there were a couple of directives.
These are the same ones, I actually just left them on there from our last meeting on, the 17th, so they're not new.
All right, so nothing new, nothing further then?
I don't believe there's any, we, did provide, from the conference, that we went to, we provided a slide, presentation, to each board member on the Data Act. That's just informational. I have not even actually got to go through that myself. I did not attend that training session, and haven't had a chance to go through the slideshow yet.
Oh, I need to take Charlie's name out there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I know.
Well, at least for the December one, I guess you can.
No, that's all right,
Yeah.
but the January one, he should be on.
I said, I've got to learn how to type Swindon.
You can copy and paste.
I was gonna say that or make a macro.
Yeah. The only other business I have for the board is, I've emailed poll workers. Lots of replies are coming in. Many of them saying they are willing to work all 3 elections.
Ooh, nice.
So, I'm looking forward to that. We did receive our poll pads. And, also with the poll workers, I've asked any, seasoned poll workers if they'd be willing to work during early voting. And I've already had several people come in and, respond that they would be interested in doing that. Of course, I'm hoping that we will have Sheila back again. And I believe Emily reached out to
Anita White.
Anita White. Is she interested?
Free right, well,
Is she-
she's free right now.
Is she? Okay, good. So, that means we would just need to possibly find a DNR. I don't know that we need them the entire voting season, but since we are still doing our in-house absentees, at least that will free us up to not have to vote people when we can process the absentee ballots.
Right.
Oh, Amy, I'm going to get Susan.
And Susan Wunderlich will also be working in here. We did confirm that we have the JFS meeting room for all of November for early voting.
Oh, terrific.
So we will early vote in here for
You
both
mean October,
primaries.
March, you mean October?
November.
Early voting in November.
Well, yeah, early voting for the November
Oh, okay.
election. Yeah,
So
so October,
during-
yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, so that's gonna be convenient, and obviously we will need probably more poll workers, at that time. So I'm still striving for at least the November election of 4, and most, in some areas, like Lower Salem does not need 4 from each precinct.
Right.
And some of the smaller places, but, it's looking pretty good.
Have we contacted the high schools?
I'm in the process of doing that now. I've already got several youth of the booth that are coming back. So I'm going to email the principals to see if their student council once again would be willing. March might be a little colder or whatever, but, they were a great benefit to us last year in the
Right.
November election, so I'm hoping we can access.
17-year-old.
17-year-olds, juniors or seniors. We are taking anyone under 17 that's in high school that would be interested in serving as ushers, parking lot attendants, and we pay them a small stipend for their time. Most of those kids are athletes or have extracurricular activities after school, so they cannot commit to an entire day of working at the polls.
Right.
So, I think we're gonna, and I wanted you guys to think a little bit about June. Depending how hot it is, again, we're at places that we do not have air conditioning. But it is only one thing on the ballot, and that's the congressional race.
Right. I would expect that the voting is, it's more a poll worker issue than it'll be the
Yeah.
voter.
So I foresee that we can stay at all of our polling locations.
I believe so.
Seems that would be my
What's the date in June
recommendation.
again?
June 11th.
Yeah.
It's March 19th, June 11th, and November.
We can run a
12th.
historical heated. Check with the weather system. RBM, have they been given enough information to get us a proposal?
For the
voting?
the absentee voting. I haven't talked to Todd yet. I know we don't have time to do it for March because they have to also get an
No,
approval
I'm
from the
only
secretary
interested
in November.
well, I'm interested in the cost
Yeah, yeah.
as it relates to our budget.
Yeah, I will try to reach out to Todd today.
So the sooner we nudge him on to get us a proposal, the better off we're gonna be. Oh, and some of the counties that use our equipment similarly situated, if we haven't, I think we should reach out to at least all of them and say, are any of you doing early, using a company for the early voting?
Okay, I do know that Union, which has all of our same equipment, does do the absentee. They're a little bit bigger than we are.
Well, my primary interest, one is, are they using the RDM system? Are they with another company? Do they like it? Do they not like it? Can they give us a ballpark even though they're bigger? What are you spending?
I did talk to Brandon, who is the director at Union, and I believe he thought it was something like
The one price was $209.
$209
But somebody told us it was $1.
Plus,
plus mail.
plus.
But I think $209 includes their mailing.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
included the
ours
postage.
with postage was the same or a little less.
Yeah.
Because you added the
Yeah.
postage.
I do know Meigs County has the same equipment. The nice thing about those counties is that they don't have a June election. Athens and Meigs are no longer in the 6th. So I do know we have some people coming down from Defiance that's wants to help with the June election. I don't know what one ballot initiative, how many people we're gonna need, but the fact is, it's nice that they're wanting to come out. Also, we did get the poll pads, the new poll pads with the new printer. Mike and Jed are coming in Friday to update the poll pads to,
Well, they're just taking them out of the package.
They're taking them out.
We'll update them.
I thought they were gonna try to update them.
We'll update
Okay, we
them.
need to update the
Yeah, they'll
iPad
just
to
take them out of
the
the package.
current iOS. We found out
Probably do
they
it,
can-
but
Well,
We don't know what kind of credit we're gonna get. We can return the poll pads, but we have to deal with the cases, and right now we're gonna have 2 cases. So I think, we might wanna save a couple cases. I don't even know if the cases would fit.
the old cases won't fit the new equipment.
So we're gonna have
So I don't
to
see
probably
any point in it.
take, to the landfill. I hate to do that, and I just don't know of anybody else that would need it, or those printer things.
I mean, unless you want a really small suitcase, I don't know that it's, you could
That's
tear the front
really
out.
lime green.
But it would be
Really
know.
loud.
says no.
But Emily has started boxing up some stuff. Obviously, the men are done in the back, we think. They have to come back in the spring when the air starts running. But I think we're looking at the retention schedule, and I think we're ready to do some shredding again.
Or hopefully soon.
But getting rid of those other poll pads and cases are gonna make a huge difference.
So did we determine that on the 2020, we can get rid of those now?
That's what, we're waiting for we have to go through the retention again, so.
But I mean, did we determine when they sent us that letter requesting that we not do that? Was that pursuant to a court order?
Yes, it was I think it was
And
a
I
legal
think
action.
it was a public records request,
Oh,
I
was
think.
it? Might have been.
Yeah, I don't think it was they just requested, I don't think it was a court order.
So, when, I think
The legal
Kadeen and I were
voters
talking
at one
and we
time,
asked,
I think that's
were you with me when
passed.
I asked that question? And they said unless it's a court order, we're not under any obligation to continue
Yeah,
to
we
have
can
that.
double check, but I don't think it's was a court order, I think it was just a public.
Well, I remember
records
seeing
request.
the
well, let's
letter.
make sure we double.
Yeah, I mean, we'll check.
I just don't
but-
remember.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I remember the request.
I remember the request, but I can't remember if it was pursuant to a court order or just.
Yeah, I think it was just, they were asking us.
So when I asked
We'll make
the
sure.
retention person, they said unless it's a court order, they haven't come by, so we can.
Yeah, they
I think the secretary just sent out a new schedule not too long ago, maybe in early December. So we have that, but yeah,
I noticed down the hallway, we have some chairs, or there were chairs.
Yeah, that's someone
Is
we
that
brought
sort
in
of
here.
our hallway or,
It's just kind of in our storage for
right?
our chairs.
Well, I guess all I'm suggesting is that if we're opening up new stuff and we have old stuff, at the risk of confusing things, wherever the old things are, let's get them out and stored in another part of our building here.
Mhm.
So we
So
don't
there's no
get that
chance
confused.
anybody's
Right.
opening things up and knocking something on the floor, and
Right.
Yeah,
when they put it together, it's not right.
Right.
I think that would, you know,
Well,
because you're gonna have to,
the
we
new
can have
and
new
old poll books are
cases,
not
right?
next to each other.
So the new
currently,
cases
so-
are gonna get marked with this goes to this
Yeah,
Do they look different?
location.
the cases themselves are the same, they do have a different tag on them,
mhm.
but the cases
They look
themselves look the
exactly
same
the
on the
same.
outside.
They have
Yeah.
a tag on them so you can distinguish them
Right.
easily.
Yeah.
Well, right now they have just Washington County Board of Elections. We will need to tag them for voting.
No, it has,
No,
well, it
no,
has,
just mean,
it has no ink on the tag, it's a different looking tag than the other.
Oh,
ones.
okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a completely different looking.
Yeah,
Well,
but I'm
Dennis
just
is right, we need to
saying,
move
let's,
those out right away so we don't get confused.
let's-
Yeah, I mean, they're not next to each other while they're unboxing them, they're not right next to each
yeah,
other.
but first order
But
of
when we
business
store
ought to
them, I
be,
mean, we need to.
Move the
we
old
gotta
ones
get
out.
the,
Yeah.
we
Move
need
the
to
old
get
ones
the
out.
old stuff out,
Move it
in
out.
a way,
Yeah, I mean, we'll make sure that they wouldn't confuse them for election day,
please.
so.
I mean, that's, well, because obviously, we're gonna be doing a lot more checking with our new stuff before it's sent out, so that we don't have a repeat of
So we can test it.
having the wrong
make sure it's all
election
good,
buried in a
Yeah.
all
machine,
that, yeah.
where we had to run around with our
Right.
newly made up authority to vote. We don't want to do that again.
I do want to bring in all the VLMs. I'm not sure yet if we really, if I need to do in-person training again. I want to see how easy this is. I would assume that they would be able to figure it out because it's just the printers now attached to the poll pad. And whether or not I need to do in person. I do know the online training will be available. I'm going to ask Defiance County, they have these new poll pads. You get their slides, and even if I just have to send out the slides to the poll workers. Obviously, new ones we will, if we have any new youth at the booth, then I'll have to hold training.
We have the voting location manager, and then don't you have another group of people that are,
Well, I want to
just
bring in the
poll
delivery workers.
no, the poll workers?
Well, there's voting location managers and leaders, and then
Right.
there's judges, which are entry level.
Well, my point is, besides the VLMs, is there another group though that we ought to make sure that they're
I would say the
up
leaders,
and
probably,
running, the
that they
leaders?
become.
Because if a voting location manager calls in ill,
Mhm.
most likely you're gonna pick a leader out of the group to replace that person.
Yeah. Also, I'm looking for another voting location manager for Warren. I think since we have decided to go to the ag building, I may ask the former, Howard,
Or Harold.
Harold Amos, yes. You know, he spoke to you guys
Right,
requesting to go back to the church.
Right.
Because he's a deacon
Well,
at the church, but
make an early contact. 'Cause
I know,
if
'cause
he's
we need to
gonna
have
wanna
somebody
think
that's-
it over, then
Yeah.
that, you know,
for VLM,
yeah.
has he done that before?
Yeah, he did it before. He was at Warren the first year we were at Warren, and then he chose, he said if we were at the schools, he didn't want to do it.
Okay.
So I might, since we're
well, you
going to
could
be-
find out, but
Yeah.
let's do that sooner than later.
Yeah, I will be calling.
But I really think the next layer should be trained in person
Yeah,
with the new
The
equipment.
leaders.
Only because, just as backup, and again, just as a refresher, because then they can direct other people that are poll workers. And there'll be a sense of security that these folks likewise know how. Because you're basically dealing with three pieces of equipment.
mm-hmm,
Virtually any person problem, there's a phone call made to us and we tell them how to deal with the person. Because it's usually identification or wrong church, wrong pew, wrong whatever. And we usually end up directing them on how to do that. But the equipment itself is, to me, the important part, because as we've traveled around, we get people who go, oh gee, it's got an orange screen and it won't work.
mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, we're not using it. Well, why aren't we using it? Is there a way to fix it? And I'd say at least 70% of the time when we call you up and go, here's what it is,
Mhm.
you go, oh, hit this, reboot that, and all of a sudden it's a green screen and away it goes.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. They just put it aside
Mhm.
as opposed to even calling in. They just, they're down a machine.
Yeah.
And then we have a longer line.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking if we can get
Get those
that group,
people.
then everybody's familiar with 3 pieces of equipment and they're ready to roll. Again, because let's face it, the more training we get, the less issues we have
I
on
agree.
election day.
I do agree with that.
But again, I understand that you may not want to be doing a ton of training on other folks. and so forth.
I no doubt they're gonna make us have training before.
For November.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
And we should.
Right.
That's one of the things I said in my email to the poll workers. I really want experienced and past poll workers to come forward. Because there's sometimes voters only vote during presidential years. Well, they didn't have to show a photo ID the last time they voted. So, so we really need to focus on provisional training and making sure we know what to do
Right.
with those folks.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Good meeting.
Thank you.
It's really interesting.
Thanks for coming again.
Well, I know, and we're so glad we get an audience.
Make sure
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's up.
Say something.
Let me make sure. I see.
It says it's being live streamed.